And then he heard you. So now he's seen you, now he's heard you. Now he can make an opinion on whether he likes you or not. If he doesn't, you're gone. If he does, you stay.
Wow.
That's weird, isn't it? But with working in that industry for as long as I have, Shaun, if I was to have a team with my family, I would do the same, because I spent more time with his family than my family. And you imagine getting up and not liking somebody and you've got to see them all day. It's not going to happen, is it? When you're a billionaire, And this is the interesting thing, Shaun, when I talk about high performance teams and things like this, I do talk about Mr. Fayed. And when I first got there, I didn't understand how rich he was. And one of the admin people said, Lee, you've got to understand this so you understand what you're dealing with. And this is how it was explained to me, and it is super cool. So in volume, if you had a 25-meter swimming pool, the regular ones we have at leisure centre, sports centres, things like that. If you got like a pint glass and took a pint glass out of the water, in terms of volume, that's a millionaire, and the remaining water's a billionaire. Mad, eh? Now this even gets worse. If you talk in terms of grams, a walrus just so happens to be a millionaire. It's 12 Boeing 747s in terms of weight is a billionaire. It's mad, isn't it? Now, the one that really got me was if you save, I think it's $246 a day, in 10 years' time, you'll have $1 million. If you save £67,000 a day, it would take you 50 years to be a billionaire.
Oh, grief.
Now, when you understand that, you understand what he does, why he does it, and how he does it. And I just found it fascinating just to be around him and that family.
Where did his money come from?
Well, he started because he was a poor kid in Cairo. And I think he was selling Hoovers or something door to door at one stage. And then he met his first wife, and she was one of the Khashoggi family, and they made a lot of their money from arms dealing. I mean, legally arms dealing, but arms dealing. And then I think through his networking and his desire to go where he wanted to go, he was such a driven man, and he's still alive, and he worked his way up, and then he got a shipping line. So he had his own shipping line, and then he was connected with the Sultan of Brunei or Oman. Sultan of Brunei, I think. I've just walked in, my head's a bit. So anyway, this Sultan, he does a lot of work for him. And then what he does then is he buys Harrods, and Tiny Rowlands, who was trying to buy it at the time, there was a big court case and all the rest of it. And what Fayed did, in a nutshell, was he used this like credit card from the Sultan to buy Harrods. But he's selling his shipping line. Anyway, when it goes to court, essentially what happens in a very, very small nutshell, and there's lots of things going on as well at the time, the Sultan goes to court and said, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. My money's his money. He didn't steal any money to do this. He would have my blessings, and he doesn't need to ask me. So then he gets thrown out, but they put a smear on him by saying, well, you didn't actually do anything wrong, but it was ungentlemanly. Is that a word? Ungentlemanly, I think is the word.
Ungentlemanly, yes.
Yeah. So that's enough for him to lose the royal seal of approval and everything. And that's why he couldn't get his passport. For some of the people listening who don't know the history of it, all his family were here. They all had a British residency, but they wouldn't give it him because of this one thing. And the amount of things he did for the local communities and the children's hospitals and things like that went unreported. And the people he employed and the money he brought into the UK, it just blew my mind. But then it went for the cash for questions thing, which I was involved with. And what he did, he started asking the MPs to ask questions in the House about why he hasn't got his passport, to start lobbying people, and that's what he was doing. And they wouldn't ask the question, but he's paying them the money, and they're going on holidays, all paid for, to the Ritz in Paris and everything, but they're not asking the questions. So he had enough of this, and he went to the newspapers and said, right, you need to listen to this, and he just told it all, and it brought the government down. So he's now even less popular than he was. So, but he's a very strong-minded guy. He's an amazing guy to watch. Used to love watching him do his business. Incredible guy.
And he was meticulous when he was walking through Harrods if he noticed anything out of place?
You could not believe it, Shaun, honestly. He's got Harrods, he's got an airline, he's got this, he's got that, he's got businesses all over the world. And every day he would walk through Harrods, sometimes for 20 minutes, sometimes for 2-3 hours. But every single day he would go, walk through, and then go up to his office. But as he's walking through, and he's crowded with people, he's got all these bodyguards around him. It's insane in Harrods, isn't it? It's a crazy place. And he'd see some dust. I remember one time, there's a bunch of umbrellas, and one was upside down in this umbrella thing. And he stops, and when he stops in these departments, they start flapping. And he says to the staff, get me the head of the department. Head of the department comes sweating like he knows something's wrong. And he just tore one off him for this umbrella being upside down. And I was like, my God, how did he see that? And it's only when you have your own business, which I have, a few businesses, that you actually see that. If you don't own it, you don't see it, do you? Obviously, I had my mind on other things. My mind was on him. That was my business. But, he'd see dust, tiny bit of dust somewhere. And that was, but his attention to detail was that good that all of his staff in all of his businesses were just super on it.
Lee, how big was his security team, and what were the individual roles in it?
So we had a setup then. It's all changed now, so I can talk about it. But it's pretty standard now. Wasn't that much then, but basically, to look after somebody like that, you generally have one team on, one team off, so you get rest, especially on a long-term gig like that. So we work a week or 2 weeks on, week or 2 weeks off, depending on where the family were going and which family member you were looking after. So we had about 50 odd guys on the security team and a few girls, really good operators as well, the females and the guys, one of the best teams I've ever worked on. So each family member would have allocated bodyguards and an allocated team. From a chauffeur, you'd have your bodyguard as such, who would be with them all the time. And then you'd have the outer perimeter of the team. So each person had their own place, as you would, and everybody had their own thing that they did. So that when you walked around, everything was really slick, get in and out of cars, get out of cars. Everybody knew I shut the door, I opened the door. Just as simple as that, but down to the most minute micromanaging of exactly where do you stand, what are you looking at, where do you go, just so if anything happens, everybody knows what everybody else should be doing, and if anybody's taken out, you've got to cover their role as well. So it works like when you get a good team, it works like a really finely oiled machine, and it's really good to be involved in that, especially from when you know the industry so well. And I've worked in quite a few really good teams as well, but that particular team was incredible. I think we had a briefing every so often by the person that runs this female. We used to call her Miss Moneypenny. And she gave us a briefing, and we were talking about various things and our phone communications, everything. We were so far ahead of the time in the technology we had then. It was incredible. But she was saying, I think it was 2 years, it might be 3 years, I can't remember. I worked for 4 years for him. Let's call it 2 years. Out of the whole team, they had 0 days sickness.
That's
That's mad, isn't
incredible.
it?
Wow. Yeah.
That's really good.
How did Princess Diana come into? Hope you're enjoying the podcast. Here's a word from our sponsor, Manscaped. Cannonballs. This summer, it's not about the size of those cannonballs.
Thank God, as I can barely see them.
Well, they were big enough to do the job, weren't they, Jen? We kicked. It's about making a splash with our friends at Manscaped.
Prep for barbecue season by making sure your grill master has the hottest dog seen this summer.
When you're at the cookout, let the meat speak for itself with Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0.
It's time to get ready and not sweaty.
The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to guarantee you'll have the most mouth-watering treat at the party. They have built the ultimate bundle for your summer grooming. So, get 20% off and free shipping with the code SHAUN20, SHAUN20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code SHAUN20. Manscaped, the perfect way to get your patties sizzling hot this summer. Hoo-ha! Thanks for supporting our sponsor. Back to the podcast.
Dodi Fayed started seeing the princess, and then she came on holiday with the Fayed family in their villa that they had. They sold it. I think it was valued at, I don't know, 70 million. So they used to go to Saint-Tropez every summer. So they had places where they go every year to their, whether it's New York, wherever, where they had their places. But Saint-Tropez was always somewhere they went in the summertime. So I'd been out there for a few weeks. And then I came back whilst the other team came on and took the family to Iceland. And when they came back from Iceland to Saint-Tropez, we were waiting for them. And we knew that the princess and the princes were joining them on a holiday. So that's how I got on that job. And it was a last holiday with her children before she died in that incident in the tunnel. And I welcomed her ashore. So she came off the tender, off the super yacht, came on shore. And I just, said, well, welcome to Saint-Tropez. And she said, thank you. And off she went, but she's the first thing she said to me as I kind of held my arm for her to get hold of if she needed to get out the tender onto the jetty, which was on their private beach. She said, oh, what, more heavies? And what she meant was more bodyguards. And because she'd seen quite a few on her journey, getting off the aircraft, getting onto the boat, or the ship, I should say, coming on the ship. So she quickly became aware there's a lot of security around,
How much did security have to be stepped up when Princess Diana entered the Al Fayed family? Yeah,
well, we had to beef it up quite a bit. So we have extra people there, probably double that we'd usually have. But the security protocols and everything was exactly the same. So there wasn't a heightened stance as such in the team. We were at a high stance anyway because Mr. Fayed had death threats on him and all sorts of stuff. So we're always operating at a high level, which most close protection teams are the elite teams are always working at a high level. So all we did was we just got more people to provide security for the residents. So you got your resident security going around with the dogs and all that kind of stuff. And they generally come on and they work the evening, and then you have day shift residents security. So it allows the close protection team to come and go as they will you don't even have to think about the security of the residents because it's all taken care of by the resident security team. So so that's what we did, Shaun. We just beefed it all up, but we didn't know what was going to happen. And at that time, when you do your risk assessments and you're looking at, who's possibly going to come and do anything to the princess, and it could be anything. It could be taking an inappropriate picture. It could be putting a listening device. It could be a physical attack. She had a lot of stalkers, by the way. It could be anybody. But we kind of did our assessment, and we thought she was heavily involved in the demining program, and she worked with the Halo Trust. And I've subsequently been back with them and taught some of their teams who were going out into hostile zones. And it was really weird to just go in there. There's pictures of Princess Diana everywhere. But she was heavily involved in that project. And we kind of figured that these people that produce these landmines, she's going to put them out of business. And these companies turn over billions and billions. So we kind of thought that could be a problem. So we just didn't know. So, we were kind of a heightened state of awareness as usual. But little did we realise it was going to be the paparazzi that was the problem. And it turned out to be the problem right at the end in Paris. But we had 2 paparazzi came over. We got a message from the ship saying, Lee, there's some guys to your left on this path, on this like a rocky path. They seem to be holding cameras. We're not too sure. So we went to another lot, me and my friend, and it was a paparazzi with a minder, very aggressive, extremely aggressive. And anyway, my friend banged this minder out. It was a bit of an altercation, and the cameraman left, and we handed him the cameras and all the rest of it. And he threatened us, and he said, "Right, I'm going to tell them you're here." We figured they were going to know we're here anyway. But so off he went. And then I took the princess and Fire's wife, Henny, Miss Henny we used to call her, or the hen. I took them out shopping that day. And we went down the town. And as we were going around the town, I was watching her. She had a flat cap on, dressed down and all that stuff. Nobody recognised her. There's various reasons, why you can disguise yourself very, very easily and nobody recognised you. And she had it off to a T. So she was dressed down, I said, sunglasses on, cap on, and off she went. But everybody she met, you could see she lit them up. They didn't know who she was. They're smiling, and she had time for everybody. She talked to everybody. I was like, wow. What an incredible woman. You meet somebody and you just feel their vibe. And I was taken aback by it. I really was. And I thought, hang on, there's somebody special here. This is a very, very special lady. And the interesting thing was, and I refer to this as well, as I said, when I'm speaking, I'm doing my high performance bit, that after a few weeks with the Fayed family, they started to change too. They'd never speak to you. Mrs. Henny wouldn't speak to me. Dodie Fayed had never spoken to me. I'd driven him, seen him on many occasions. Mrs. Henny, she'd say hi to me. I actually got on with her okay. But the kids could be a bit rude. It didn't bother me. I loved working there, by the way. I had a great relationship with all the family. But all of a sudden, Mrs. Henny started smiling. She started chatting. The kids would say, listen to this, mate, it'll blow you away. They'd say please and thank you. Unheard of. Dodie Fayed actually spoke to me. And I was like, wow, how can somebody change a family, in just days? And so that's when I first met her. And then when the paparazzi came, it was just, you've never seen anything like it, Shaun. It was hundreds of them, hundreds. And they were on boats, helicopters, and then it all went wrong. Well, it didn't go wrong. We were kind of mitigating it and all the rest of it. But I looked and I thought, who could live in this daily? It was just incredible to be there and witness that,
How did you keep them at bay if it was that intense?
Well, what we figured out in the end, the princess helped out as well. What we figured out in the end, there's nothing we can do about it. We kind of managed the beach so they wouldn't come close on the beach. But we just had to try and get on with it, with them being there. And every vehicle that went out, it was motorbikes around you, these little scooters cutting you in and out, and they didn't know who was in the car, but they just didn't know. And then we started sending decoy cars out, and we go on little decoy missions. And what we tried to do is we tried to create a space for them to at least enjoy an hour or two. So we'd send one ship off one way, one ship off another way, knowing we could half them. And then we'd send like maybe 3 or 4 vehicles going out. We had all the armoured vehicles. So we wanted them to think, where's she gone? In which one? And we had some of the girls that were similar looking. So they just didn't know, knowing full well, within a few hours they'd get it. And then we go off to a beach somewhere.